welcome to another episode of The Bottom Line. I'm your host, Lauren Kalil. Our show is brought to you by UCAN. On today's episode, we have athlete manager Benji Hull and Niki Brazier here to discuss ways to increase attendance at events. Guys, we all know that events are expensive. Between hosting off-season competitions or even a semifinal, the price tag gets high pretty fast. But getting more people to these events, it greatly helps with some of those expenses. So let's first kind of discuss some examples of competitions and which ones are doing it right to get more athletes or athlete fans into seats. Benji, I'll let you start.
Yeah, I think one of the beautiful things that the competition space is doing is as the sport professionalizes, we're seeing travel stipends being included. We saw Samuel Cornier pull out of Dubai this morning because of the cost of travel, of his hotel, of everything that was associated with being able to make it to Dubai. Whereas in a few weeks, next week, actually, we're going to be at Rogue and we've got a travel stipend going down there. I really think that being able to go and compete and not have a cost associated with having to compete is really going to help professionalize the sport and create more equity and opportunity for athletes at every level. Like we're seeing Wodapalooza with the gauntlet and with the different divisions, get an opportunity to really get out there and show what they're capable of and create a real community around an event.
Niki, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So just to clarify, are we talking about increasing attendance as far as like viewership or as far as the professional spectators? Yeah. So two things come to mind. First is the incredible turnout at community events like Granite Games and Wodapalooza, right? And Benji just said it. Give attendance the opportunity to take part in something somehow. I do think that when you go to when you go to an event like Granite, like you're really signing up, right? Like the divisions are serious, you're there for the weekend. But now Wodapalooza is offering different types of events like the Gauntlet, where you're working out like a crazy person for an hour, but you're only working out for an hour. And so there are different ways and opportunities to get involved. And I think that can extend all the way through to opportunities like in Vendor Village, for example. What kind of vendors are coming who can put on 1, 2, or 3 half-hour events, 10-minute events, like that kind of thing. I think people look for ways that they can get involved and get excited. And I really think the gold standard for that is what happens at the CrossFit Games, where there is an entire, it almost looks like a boxing ring. I don't really know what you call it, but there's like an entire section of Vendor Village where CrossFit itself is putting on seminars and having classes, and vendors take over that area sometimes and host their own things. And having opportunities to get involved, to not just sit in your seat and watch the competition, I think is what is really going to drive people to attend and make their presence known.
If we look at specifically CrossFit license events, should they have some kind of horse in the race when it comes to helping with promotion and assisting these events to get more spectators to come?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to answer it. That's a double-edged sword because it's so tough. It's like, I don't know what's better, and I'm not an event organizer, so I can't really speak from their perspective, but I don't know if it's better to have a higher touch from HQ and more help in those types of areas, or if they want to maintain a little bit of their independence and autonomy and really run their event and handle their event on their own. I don't really know where the line should be drawn or what will be more helpful for them. CrossFit is coming out with so many more helpful tools for the affiliates, like marketing tools and things like that. Maybe events would benefit in some respect from something like along those lines, but maybe they want to do their own media and their own promotion, and they're like, don't touch my marketing. I want to do that myself. I don't really know.
Benji, any thought on that?
Yeah, I think it has to do with the market, right? Like in North America and in Europe, we've got a huge and fast growing CrossFit market. But when you look at regions like Asia, or you look at a region like South America where CrossFit is growing and it's booming. I mean, Don Fall in an interview the other day said that he just got back from a trip to South America and got to tour boxes down there. Like CrossFit is clearly interested in what's going on there, but I think it's hard to allocate or even ask the question of allocation of funds when maybe your capital is best spent in other places where you're going to see it returned. I'm not saying that CrossFit should or shouldn't. I do think that's at their discretion. And I do worry that would cause a little bit of, I'm going to call it teenage jealousy between events, depending on who gets what amount of money. But I do think that there's a market question that has to be asked around Like, is this palpable to be able to support these regions? If we're going to do a CrossFit licensed event and we're going to give them X amount in London, well, what about an event down in Buenos Aires where we can only give them a quarter of what we're giving this London event the market, right? So it seems like there should be some kind of scale, and if not, then there should be some kind of standardization when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm looking at some of these events, I mean, Niki, we go and we work at these events, but if I was just a spectator, a fan of the sport, I think one of the big driving factors to going and watching these events in person is who's competing. But I feel like time and time again, we see athletes on the roster or they're on the promotion, and then all of a sudden, last minute, a few weeks before, they pull out of the competition. Do either of you think that athletes should have a contractual obligation once they commit to a competition that they do need to follow through and be there?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's really tough. Benji, you're the athlete manager. You go first.
Yeah.
What would your athletes think about that, Benji?
I mean, I don't want to speak for them, but I do think there is some level of expectation, right? When you show up to something, you commit to something. And I think it's different if you're going to compete at, let's say, a smaller regional event and you last minute have to pull out because your coach is worried about overexerting yourself or you're worried about a nagging injury or something like that. I think that's warranted in some situations, but let's take an event like Wadapalooza, for example, where star power is at an all-time high, right? That is the winter place to be in January.
You ain't kidding.
No,
right?
I'm not. I think that sometimes it's a little bit, it can be a little bit frowned upon to pull out at the last minute of events like that, where, people are coming to expect you to be a part of this great festival of fitness. But also, like in my role, my number one priority is to protect my athletes and make sure that they're taken care of. So if you needed to pull out, great. Let's have a conversation about that. And I think it needs to be handled on a case-by-case basis, really.
This episode is brought to you by UCAN. Who can? You can. At least I can with UCAN with one of their easy squeeze pouches that give me the energy I need to get through my workout without causing a crash. When I work out early in the morning but don't want to on an empty stomach because we know mid-wad I'm going to be hangry, I grab one of their super easy on the stomach bars. Chocolate almond butter? Yes, please. I may not be a games athlete yet, but UCAN helps me stay focused and energized during my workouts. It delivers steady release carbs for long-lasting energy without spiking blood sugar levels, the key to sustaining peak performance and focus and recording videos like these. Trusted by top CrossFit pros like Scott Panchik and Emily Rolfe, get your hands on these goodies and even save 20% on your first order with our code CHALKUP. Link in the description. Now, back to the episode.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I just see it from both sides. Like, I feel really bad for smaller events that try to hang their hat on, oh, this athlete is coming or that athlete is coming, and they need ticket sales, right, to recoup the money that it takes to put on an event. So I feel for them when they have had a front runner or a headliner that all of a sudden needs to pull out. But at the very same time, like, this is sport and this is life and shit happens. Can I swear on the show?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. Shit happens, and that's real, and shit happens more in sports than anywhere else. And if you get into contractual obligations, well, then you start kind of needing to put terms or parameters around who has the better excuse and why. And I would be terrified to say, like, you cannot pull out unless you're injured, right? And then athletes are like, oh, now I got to fake an injury because for whatever reason, X, Y, or Z may be an excellent reason, but it is not part of the parameters of their scope or their contract. Now they can no longer come. What if it's a family emergency? What if it's just straight up cost? What if all of a sudden they have some other shit happens cost that came up in their lives and now they can't travel to Dubai? You know what I mean? Like, you really can, these just human interaction, and you really can't. I don't think that's fair to put that kind of pressure on an athlete. But at the same time, what can we do to protect some of these smaller competitions that really require a roster to bring people in? I think that may be a better way to frame the question. So
as we answer some of these questions, is there a bigger like realistic thing that specifically these smaller competitions can do and really grasp onto to get people to leave home, leave the live stream, and be at the event in person? Niki, I know you talked about having like interaction in ways that the fans can also do fitness, be part of the event, but are there any other things that come to mind?
I hate to say that the sheer cost of tickets has become prohibitive in some situations, but I do think it has. Granted, again, not an event organizer, so I don't know what it looks like as far as their cogs go and what their margins are and how much they need to recoup. But at the same time, like lowering ticket costs would encourage more ticket sales. So there's that dangerous game that you play when you're running a business to try to figure that out. But I do think some of the events that I've seen recently, the cost was real high where I was like, wow, if I wasn't already like working at this event, I don't know if I would find myself here just for sheer ticket costs. So maybe playing with the pricing would be one way at it.
I think that there's also, I have a marketing background, and I always come back to this quote by Simon Sinek where he talks about like people don't buy into what and they don't buy into how, but they buy into why, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you drive a narrative that draws in a customer or a consumer because of your why, not your what or how? Throw a fitness festival, throw a CrossFit competition, do whatever you please. But if you're going to do it with a level of excellence where you're really doing it because you love the community, because you want to push and create something incredible for the people around you. I think that there's a couple things that can be pulled in, whether that's brands within the community, engage them, get a Victory Grips, get an RX Smart Gear to come set up a booth, work with the people, the players in the community that, maybe you're not necessarily working with HQ or you're working with the top 10 athletes who are going to podium at the games or whatnot, but really draw in some interaction from the stakeholders, right? If we look at how many people compete at the games versus how many people do CrossFit worldwide, it's an astronomical comparison, right? I would much rather cater to and draw in the people that are around this worldwide community than rely on these top 40 men or top 40 women to show up to my event. And I think that there's a place for those top 40 men and women, right? It's the season. It's from the open to quarters to semis to the games. And there's these other festivals throughout the year that are a great outlet for an everyday CrossFitter like myself to drive 3 hours to Spokane and do a CrossFit comp on a Saturday and have fun with my friends and then go back to my 9 to 5 on Monday.
Yeah. You know what? And I would even add to that to say that I think that something new and innovative needs to be done. I think that we are really used to the format of a CrossFit competition, be that local, regional, or elite level. I think we all just, you go to one, you go to another, you kind of get used to it. I would love to see someone do something different. I think that's part of why I tune into Dubai every year, right? Is because they always have something wacky going on.
Yeah.
Where they've you've got the indoor ski slope or some things that only they can do. And to a point, Rogue has done that, and to a point, the Games does that every year. They always try to find it. But I would love to see just something different, a different format, a different point spread, a different, I don't know what, but something to really engage us because it's new and innovative. Maybe that would draw more people too.
Here's a wild thought, especially with COVID and the pandemic and nobody able to travel, live stream has become more and more common. Almost all of the, especially like major competitions do it. Madrid this past year, though, they did not have a live stream. Do you think if big competitions decided to just take away the live stream, that people would be more pissed and just kind of like boycott the competition, or if that would make them want to go and watch it in person and experience it? No, Niki, you're shaking your head.
I'd be bullshit. If there was a major competition that didn't have a live stream, I would be pissed because it would be so incredibly elitist to assume that I had the time, money, effort, and energy to go to the competition. And that's what we don't want. We want every CrossFitter to feel like they are a part of this community. I also think we continuously need the live streams to happen and to get better in order to become more of a legitimized sport. Every major sport has that type of accessibility, and that's what we need. I think we need fewer paywalls. I think we need better equipment. I think we need me at every event, like whatever it is, our team has been working over a decade to try to get these streams to a point where people can really enjoy them. And of course the haters, they always gonna hate, but we do a really good job. And I think that should only continue. I don't think that should go backwards.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, the more eyes that you can get on a sport, you don't know who's going to happenstance upon the Wadapalooza Saturday morning coverage or the road coverage. And then they're going to look up CrossFit. They're going to go to the Black site and they're going to click find a box and they're going to walk in the next day and they're going to go work out and become a part of an incredible community.
Yep.
Like, I think that taking away the live stream is taking away, honestly, from the community, right? It's pulling away exposure. It's pulling away eyes. Like, and again, like Niki said, it's elitist, honestly. Like, how do you explain that then to the kid who loves Wadapalooza, wants to go see Noah Olsen and the boys smash it up?
Who doesn't want to see them?
Lives in the Pacific Northwest and can't fly across the country to Florida. Can't pay for an Airbnb in downtown Miami. Can't pay for a hotel. CrossFit is about inclusivity and community, not about excluding just because you can't pay.
Yeah, it would stunt the growth of the athletes. They would have fewer sponsorships. They would have fewer opportunities to build their own brands and et cetera if they didn't have that type of exposure too.
Niki, what's your bottom line?
I think my bottom line is that we need to get more creative about how to engage fans at these events, and then they will be more drawn to attend in person.
Benji, what's your bottom line?
Pursue excellence. If you're going to do something, do it wholeheartedly. Really, really dive into the community because that's your consumer. That's the people that are going to show up. Make it accessible, make it inclusive, be about the community.
I love it. Benji, Niki, thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time.